So after they all said, "Hail, King of the Jews," John just says that they smote him with their hands. And that's the last thing mentioned before Pilate brings him back. Mark has, they smote him on the head with a reed and did spit on him. When they had mocked him, they took off the purple robe and put his own clothes on him and led him out to crucify him. This is a problem. This is confusing because they're not leading him to be crucified yet. John is very clear. He was led out with Pilate, still in the robe. They must have done everything that happened next. Pilate gives them the last option to choose Jesus instead of Barabbas. Then after that, they take him back, took off the purple robe from him, put on his own clothes on him, and let him out to be crucified. So I'm going to save the second half of verse 20 for all the way at the end after the rest of his trial. But this first half of verse 20, that they mocked him, I'll just stop there for Mark. So all I have from John is that they smote him with their hands. Mark, they smote him in the head with a reed, spit on him, and mocked him. And then I'm going to stop there with Mark and go back to John. They brought him back out. In Matthew, they spit on him, took a reed, smote him on the head, same as Mark. After they had mocked him, they took off the robe from him. So just the first part, that they mocked him. And then I'll go back to John. So what should come first? If they gave him the reed, I think it would make sense that that's the reed they're smacking him in the head with. I think it should start with them smacking him. They spit and smote him in the head. Okay, so I'm going to have smack him with their hands, then spit, then took the reed and smacked him in the head with it. That's what I'll do. So John first, and they smote him with their hands and did spit upon him. That's what I need to have. Matthew, and they spit upon him. So I'll have they combined, but first, and Matthew and Mark. Mark did spit upon him, and is both. Mark bowed their knees and worshipped him, but I'm going to go back to the beginning. Smote him on the head with a reed. But I'll have, and took the reed. I knew it. They took the reed from him and smote him on the head. So Matthew, and I think I will have and they again. And this they. So Matthew, and they. The they from the beginning in Matthew, which didn't use, because I used just did. Took the reed. So in Mark it says, they smote him on the head with a reed. So reed is both. And smote him on the head is Matthew. And they smote him on the head. So actually this they is going to be Matthew and Mark. Because I don't need to say they took the reed and they smote him on the head with it. This and is both. Both smote him on the head with... If I could have an it from somewhere, that would work. So I don't need to name the reed again. They had plaited a crown of thorns, and they put it upon his head. So I could use that it here. But I'd rather not. I'd rather use a regular present it. John, and put it on his head. There's also an it there. I think I might have to do that. Use that it in italics for the crown of thorns. No, that's actually not a very good solution. If I take that italics it from Matthew and Mark and move it down here, the sentence would have ended, and smote him on the head with it, that it being italics, so it would look as if it was written without anything there. They smote him on the head with. That doesn't make much sense. So after that, I originally planned on moving the it from Mark which was actually written, and then having the italics it from Matthew and John in that verse earlier. And when they had platted a crown of thorns, they put it upon his head. But even then, it would leave this sentence here that I'm dealing with now to read, and smote him on the head with it. It being grabbed from 2 verses away. I don't like doing that unless I absolutely need to. I definitely don't need to do that here. I only did that in order to avoid repeating the word read. But if I use that word again here, it would only be repeated once. It's not too redundant, and it would be left as it's originally written, pretty much. They did spit upon him, and they took the reed, and smote him on the head with a reed. Now, I don't want to have it be a reed from Mark, because in Mark that was the first time the reed was mentioned, so they would just say a reed. And I couldn't put the earlier with Matthew, and did spit upon him, and they took a reed, because the reed was already mentioned earlier in Matthew. They put it upon his head and a reed in his hand. That's the a reed. That should only be done the first time they mention a thing. So if I can't use a reed earlier in Matthew for when they took it, and I can't use a reed later, because that would be just as strange, I need to have this last mention of the reed be the reed. So as you can see, and probably could have guessed, I'm just going to take one of the word the from earlier, smote him on the head, and I'm going to put it here at the end with the reed. And I chose Matthew for the reed. That way it is clear there's some kind of jumping around going on. The from earlier, the head, will be from Mark. This reed will be from Matthew. So I went back and changed that earlier it. They put it upon his head to the one that's actually present in Mark. And now the second half of this verse reads, and did spit upon him, and they took the reed, and smote him on the head with the reed. It might be a little bit redundant, but it's way better than grabbing an it from 2 verses away. And they mocked him. Mark, when they had mocked him. Okay, I think I'm going to use that at the beginning. When they had mocked him, they smote him with their hands. So I'll have the and be both, Mark and John. Mark, when both they had mocked him. So now it all reads, and after they had mocked him, they smote him with their hands, and did spit upon him, and they took the reed, and smote him on the head with the reed.